Hi everyone, this is Karen Frith. Welcome to the Consultant Collective series. I've spent the last 10 years working with and learning from some of the best consultants in the market, and now many of them are joining me to discuss how they've built a thriving business, how they've survived huge shifts in the marketplace, and to share the secrets of their success with you. The one question everyone asks me is, how do I start my own consulting business? So the Consultant Collective series will provide answers. Join me and some of the most experienced consultants in my network to learn, apply and share strategies to grow your consulting business. My name is Karen Frith and welcome to the Consultant Collective series.
This has been a really great opportunity, and I'm really pleased that you're willing to give up your time and help us out. I think it's going to be quite insightful for some of the team, some of the contractors that I work with, and others hopefully when we get this advertised a little bit more. But just sort of reflecting back on our relationship, I think we met at a round table or a networking event a few years ago now, which was interesting because it was a group of, I think, transformation directors, program managers, and it was very, very clear back then that you knew your stuff, forced to be reckoned with in the industry. From my own point of view, very, very nice that you weren't in my niche. It was very much a meeting of minds rather than a competitive conversation. So that was great for me. I'm just going to widen this slightly. And yeah, it became, what became really apparent to me last year was that you could see something happening in the marketplace, and you could see that a lot of people were becoming quite distressed. And I saw a very different Tash come out then last year, very sort of caring and nurturing, rather than, I'm a program manager, I can go in and I can do the hard-nosed delivery that we all know that we need to do when we've got to hit the ground running. We've got 3 months, 6 months to turn a program round. It was a very different Natasha that I think the community saw last year. You took control of a conversation that was, I thought, spiraling out of control on some of the very public forums. And you managed to get people off those public forums and into an environment where they could still vent, they could still have those conversations, but it was in a much more friendly and nurturing environment. Very, very insightful that, the digital footprint never leaves, and what you say on a public forum lives with you forever. So you managed to take that and encourage people to still have those emotions, still have that download, but do it more in a safe environment. So I thought that was amazing last year, and I know quite a few people in our own combined network certainly benefited from that. I don't know if they're still in that space, but if they are, and I don't know whether perhaps you can tell us in a little bit whether you're still encouraging all of that, because it must be a huge drain on your time to be able to do that, especially as you've got 2 children who are, you've had to homeschool like most people over last year. I'm fortunate, mine are slightly older than yours, but at 15 and at 12, it must have been a challenge last year to do that homeschooling for both Scarlett and Henry. So perhaps, let us know how you got on with that and how you coped, in a personal. You must have been going through an awful lot of these emotions yourself. So I think one of the first things for me would be, really, with all of that playing out, what opportunities did the pandemic and COVID give you last year on a personal level, on a work level, with all of this other stuff that you sort of just took on board as well? How did you turn what was a huge global incident into something that was positive for yourself, your brand, for the clients that you were working with?
I think, firstly, the timing was really bad for all of us. In the contractor community, the last few years have been really turbulent. I think there's been the changes to IR35, Brexit, and then lastly, COVID. I actually set up a support group pre-COVID due to the IR35 changes. I could see a lot of people getting distressed. They didn't really understand it. That natural reaction when you're losing control, that you start to get aggressive and those sort of behaviors. And I thought, some of these people are really good, and this is not the place to show your anger. These are people that are going to recruit you in the future. So very quickly saw that there was a need for people to get support, and set up a number of WhatsApp groups actually in the sort of BA, PM, program manager community. And I set up about 3 of them. But WhatsApp has a limit. You can only have 256 members on each group, and I didn't know that. So a guy who was on one of the groups stepped in and said, well, we could use an app. So he helped me with an app, and we developed an app. And that was really, really good, because what it meant was people could post a question. Say, I don't know, one of the big questions was, how do I calculate what I'm going to clear on a PAYE basis? So you were able to search on the app for that answer. And so we put some calculators on there. Loads of people stepped up to help me, accountants, recruiters. We started supporting people with CVs. A lot of the people, it wasn't just IR35. A lot of people have been on the bench for maybe 12 months. They were starting to lose the houses, send the cars back, dragging the kids out of school. So a lot of people very, very desperate. So I just saw a need for it really, and then rallied around my community really to help out. And there were some people that really, really stepped up. Gary Wills, who's a recruiter, rung me and said, oh, I love what you're doing, how can I help? And him and his colleague were really good on the CV front. I mean, I'm pretty good at CVs. I recruit a lot of people in my role, but I'm not an expert. And I'm probably only an expert in the BA PM space, which is what I recruit in. So yeah, they stepped up. So we had a lot of help. And that group on the app now is still running, but it's sort of self-sufficient really. I dip in and out of it, and to be honest, I turn off notifications because I like a good work-life balance. Otherwise you're just on your phone all the time. So COVID it gave me an opportunity to sort of pre-COVID step up and help others. And then just before COVID, I'd been really successful sort of managing a lot of regulatory change, and pretty much moved between 2 big suppliers. I'd do one project for one, and then I'd say, oh, I'm free, and they'd go, brilliant, you can start next week. And I did that for about 5 or 6 years, which was amazing, and I loved it. But one of those big clients took the approach that everyone would be inside IR35. I didn't have an appetite for that. So I decided to move on. So in February last year, I left after 3 months notice, or whatever it was, I can't remember. I handed over anyway. And the really distressing thing for me was I'd built up this amazing team of like 10 people that I moved around with me. And you're only as good as your team, amazing people, particularly one, Mark, my right-hand guy. And he had to leave them all behind, or they had to make their own decisions. And I felt a bit of sort of grief really with that. I'd built up this team, they were really good. They knew what I liked, I knew what they liked. And that was quite hard to deal with. And then you get a bit of that imposter syndrome where you're like, well, I've worked for pretty much the same 2 clients on and off for 5 or 6 years. What happens if I can't do it when I go somewhere else? They know me, they know what I'm good at. So there's a bit of that. So I decided to take a week out skiing. And a friend of mine texted me to say, I believe you're free. Can I give your CV to my boss? And I was like, yeah, if you want. And by the time I got back from holiday, I had 3 offers. So one from someone in my network, another one, a recruiter had gone and sold me. And I can't remember. Only the other one was my other client that I went backwards and forwards to. Anyway, so I had some good conversations with some new potential clients, and actually decided to gamble really and go into the London markets, which I'd never done before. I've got a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. I'm a big believer in being at home. I didn't want to do an Alan Partridge and live in a travel lodge in the week. It wasn't for me. But COVID gave me the opportunity to work remotely. And so I've been doing that, and that's been really good. And I've also been able to use some of my dream team that I dragged around with me for 10 years to take on other work with other clients. So I've got a couple of new clients as well this year. I've moved into retail, which I never did before. It was always financial services. And that's really exciting because we're selling real things, not moving paperwork around. So from a work perspective, COVID's been really, really good for me. I have seen a lot of my contractor network struggling. And I'd sort of I got a new role, and the app was sort of running itself, and I sort of took my foot off the gas a little bit and just let it run itself, really. And then one of my colleagues at a life insurance company took his own life in the first lockdown, and that was a bit like, oh my God, like I wished, I just thought, what if I could have done something about that? And it started making me think about who do I know that's potentially quite isolated and feels like they haven't got a way out. Yeah. And I know Thomas Giles had recently quit his job and started his own business, and I thought, there's some of the people that are in the network that just started what felt like the wrong time. And you'll know, as a contractor, it can be a lonely, lonely world. So I made a list of all the people that I thought might be struggling a little bit, and I send them a text, and I have a little rota. I send them a text on a Friday, say, happy Friday, how are you? And then, we do a brew with Tash, where I haven't got time to go out for a walk, so I'll have a cup of tea and we'll have a bit of a chat, or we'll do a walk and a talk. So we're all getting a few steps in, and that's been really successful.
Is that one-to-one, the brew with Tash and the walk and talk? Yeah. Very good. Yeah. So just picking up on the team aspect of it, okay, so when you left and you sort of left your dream team behind, did you feel any sort of responsibility to try and help them with it? Were they sort of codependent on you? I mean, I felt that personally sometimes when I've moved around and other people are there, and we're not running consultancies. We don't go out there and do business development. We don't sell. That is typically recruitment consultants that do that. So we're in that sort of between a rock and a hard place, where you've got a sense of responsibility to people, but also you're a one-man band, you are running your own business as well. How did you cope with that on a personal level?
Yeah, so I found that really tough. Some of my network I recommended to my friends, thinking I'm never going to get them back because they're really good. So so I have a good relationship with another program manager, and we do move resources between us, and we have done for years. And so a few went that way, a few stayed with a client and took the PAYE deal because that was the right thing for them, and I think that's great. Everybody needs to make the right decision, and my right hand man, Mark, decided to take some time off, and luckily he doesn't have a LinkedIn profile. Nobody knows who he is. So basically he did nothing until I found him a new role with a new client. So he's not going anywhere. I'm not prepared to give him up. The rest of them, it was hard actually, having to recommend those people that you've supported, mentored, not officially, but it happens naturally. There's some things that the people that work for me know that I hate, like I hate it when someone sends me a spreadsheet and they haven't spell checked it, or there aren't full stops at the end of a sentence, or that lack of consistency on bullet points. Have they got full stops or have they not? Just those quality issues, which for me, I can't send something to a client if the quality's not there. And so I'm really passionate about that. So having the right team around me has always been really important. And I've sort of had to learn to pick up a lot of that stuff myself. I was a program manager with 10 people, and my right-hand man would come in and QA all my packs and reword all my stuff. And I'd concentrate on delivery. So I've been a bit more hands-on. And in fact, that's another impact of COVID. I have stepped down a level for some of my clients. I'm just a project manager, and actually I really like that because I'm really good at it. Because the next level up.
Sorry, one of the challenges with that, and I've heard a couple of people say, is that they feel as if they've de-skilled over the past 12 months, whereas you've turned that more into a positive and gone, actually, although it's a step down in sort of the rank, if you like, of the order of a program team, it's giving you the opportunity to do something that potentially you wouldn't have been able to do, or you wouldn't have had to do.
Yeah, and I'm getting exposure to stuff that I'd never normally touch. So, I've had a culture program, I've managed some Section 166s, I've had a HR transformation program. So I've been doing some really fun stuff that normally specialise in sort of regulatory compliance. I would never have had the opportunity to touch some of that stuff.
Yeah. And how did you get into those markets? I mean, even in a normal environment, some contractors find it difficult to transfer across markets, so they've always been in financial services and always been in banking, and they're very it's a fragile market then when you've only got one market to go to. How did you How did you find that movement across? Was it easy? Was it something that you actively went out and sought, or did it come to you?
It came to me, and I'd say all my work comes via my network. So, wherever I work with the clients that I work, I build up a good reputation. And I think that's what's kept me in work. It's me. And that's really nice. I thought very long and hard about going and competing with, some of the smaller consultancies, because I've had 30, 40 people work for me consistently over the last decade, and it'd be relatively easy to do. And they were all like, Tash, you need to set up your own consultancy. And it's not for me,
Yeah.
I'm too fussy about quality. I want to go in and deliver a really good service, but on a small scale. And also, I've been married to my childhood sweetheart we've been together 30 years in May, and I'm not that old, honest. So I really value like having a strong marriage and being present for my children. And I think that whole throwing yourself into building something like that, you've got to do RFPs at the weekend.
Yeah.
That whole wining and dining. And I think as well, what I realised over the last 12 months really is it's all about your network. And I'd be competing at that level with all those middle-aged blokes, and I'm not a bloke, and I'm never going to be able to compete with that, because they've been friends for 20 years and they go to football or golf or whatever it is. So I think it's different, but they know they get a safe pair of hands with me. I work for clients and stuff goes to the board and they're like, can Tash sort this out? That's brilliant. It's really satisfying.
That personal branding then, although you might think it's on a small scale, you've really found your niche, and you've managed your personal brand very, very well. So it's allowed you over the course of the last 12 months to move into markets that potentially you would not have looked at, you maybe not needed to look at, but the working from home, the multiple clients, the best use of the non-commuting time, I think is probably something that has all played into it. One of the other things I had, just sort of moving back again to your dream team, the group of contractors that you work with, and Mark could take time off, and had planned for that, presumably. Others took inside IR35 because that was the right thing for them to do. And I'm definitely with you. Everybody's circumstances are different. Everybody's got to make, their own decision for what suits them. And again, at their time of life, when you've got two small children or you've got kids in private school, sometimes it may not be what you want to do. It's just what you have to do. But did you see that a certain proportion of the contracting market hadn't planned for that rainy day? We're very good at contingency planning for our clients, at making sure that we've got all those business continuity plans in, but actually for their own business, it was devoid from what I could see. People had it was more just in time delivery for their own business. It was more, literally next month's paycheck is all that they've got in the bank, which was quite a shock for me, to be honest with you.
I mean, some of the conversations I've had with some contractors where they're saying, well, I can't afford to live on a PAYE basis. Well, you need to start slashing your bills. And that was a lot of the stuff that came out of the support group. People saying, well, I can't afford to survive on the PAYE, but I've been on the bench for 6 months. And you've got to wake up and smell the coffee. Money doesn't just grow on trees. You may have been really successful for 5 years, but you've got to be prepared for those days when you're on the bench for 6-12 months. And I think as an outsider, if someone doesn't understand the contracting world, it is like that. A few of us are very lucky and never out of work, but that isn't the norm. A lot of people probably only work 9 months of the year. You have to save for a rainy day. I'm a massive believer in that. I think my sort of group, my dream team, we're all waiting for someone to tap us on the shoulder and say, get back in that call centre where you started at 12 grand a year, which, to be honest, I'd do it. Some of the people in the support group, they were on the bench for a long period of time and COVID hit, and we had them all volunteering for the NHS and the local community. And we were like, sitting at home worrying about not having a job is not going to help. Time box, you're looking for a role, and then go out and do something. So much satisfaction to be got from helping others. And it's led to roles for some people. Some people have totally changed what they wanted to do.
Oh, right. That's interesting. So have they left the contracting market, or have they actually decided, more of a, let's sort of 12 to 18 months, because I know a lot of people have gone into permanent positions with a view that this will be maybe the next 2 years until the world settles down again. I'm seeing a fair amount of that, but they're still keeping their fingers in different pies just to see what comes up. So publicly, they're still running their contracting business, but privately, they've gone and decided to generate other income streams just so that they can protect their family and their lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, some of them have, particularly the guys that were furloughed, because my support group ended up bigger than contractors. There was a lot of people that were furloughed, and Gary went off and set up Furlearn, which was to support those that were furloughed. Yeah. And a lot of them sort of, because they've been at home and they have had the opportunity to look and see what's happening and had time on their hands, a lot of them have gone up and set up their own businesses. One guy that I'm working with at the moment, so you'll know I do quite a bit of mentoring with people. He works for like a pensions company, and he's decided to go off and train to write wills, and he's going to start, doing his own marketing and start doing wills. And where we live around us is everyone's sort of probably 40 to 60. It's a great age bracket. We've got a big network between us, so I can help him with that. And so, yeah, I think people are branching off into different stuff, and they're thinking more about, I can have a job, but also I could do this on the side, which I really love and I really enjoy. And it may not give me enough money to live off, but it's an extra revenue stream. Yeah. And you see that with the contractors. A lot of contractors don't just contract. No. They'll have a business doing this, a business doing that, and it's all those revenue streams add up to give them the lifestyle that they want.
Yeah, and that's the right way to run a business, to be honest with you, and that's a way to prove, that IR35 doesn't apply when you're actually working with one particular client, because you've got evidence that you're running a bona fide business because you've got multiple income streams as well. Some clients won't necessarily take that, and actually you've then got to be in such a position where you're confident in your own ability to be able to walk away. And sometimes that confidence can dip when you are on your own. As you said earlier on, it's very, very lonely, very isolating. But when you've got that community around you where, you've got others saying, no, honestly, you're better than this. Just go out. There's work out there. Go and speak to these recruitment agents. Go and do some cold calling on your previous network. Sometimes it's just that push that they need, isn't it? Just to go, somebody's got your back, because we've all been in that situation before. So just a really nosy question from me then, with all of this mentoring, is this like another side hustle for you? Is this a business? Do you charge for all of this? Is it something?
Yeah, I do it for free, actually. So I started a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago. Someone came to me who'd been made redundant. He was in his 50s. He was a senior risk manager in a bank. The redundancy deal was really good. He wanted to take the package, but he didn't have any confidence. So his CV was rubbish. So I redid his CV, introduced him to a load of people in my network, and he got a job. And actually, he's now living in Guernsey, and he posts these beautiful pictures of him and his wife eating lobster on the beach, and I'm really jealous. No, I'm really happy for him. And it sort of started from that. And then a few people that I worked with at British Gas, they went through I was permanent there for 15 years. They started making a lot of redundancies, so I stepped in, helped them. And it's sort of grown, really. And now I'm in a couple of sort of networking groups, both on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And so where I see people really struggling, I step in. So I've got a guy at the moment who's been in the Marines. He's currently a helicopter pilot in the Navy, and he's taking redundancy and he wants to become a commercial pilot. Wow. I mean, this is miles more exciting than what I do. I get a real buzz out of it. So I'm just working with him on his CV and I've got a massive network, so I'm sure there'll be someone that'll be able to help me get him in front of the air ambulance. And he needs to do more training to become an air ambulance pilot. But if we can get him a job in there, we know exactly what he needs to earn, 32 grand a year, to cover all his bills. And he doesn't have to cancel Netflix for that. So we just need to get him a job at that level for sort of 12 months while he does his extra training, and then he can go off and do that. So I get a real buzz out of that. I absolutely love it. I mean, I'll be honest, I've not really got time. This is
where do you find the time? Yeah.
But it's nice to give back, and it's really nice to see people thrive. And I think they're all the same, basically. So they come out of wherever they've been working. The CV isn't great. They don't know how to sell themselves. Yeah. And a lot of it's confidence and no network. I think that's what you get as a contractor. If you're good at it, you have a good network, and you know who to speak to and how to help. I mean, the number of projects that I picked up and I'm like, I don't even know where to start, but I know he's done it before, so I'll give him a ring and ask him where he started. And my clients ring me and say, we've just done an acquisition, we need to move a load of data, you did it on this project, how did you do it? And just, I don't see my fellow contractors as competition. I'm there to, you know, help them and they help me and vice versa. And I don't think it's always been like that. So that my mentoring, I absolutely love. I get loads out of it. And the level varies. So someone from 20 grand a year to someone on 150 grand a year.
And also the different types of topics. I mean, you know, we could all get bogged down, as you say, regulatory was your thing in the financial services model, but to start to talk to a pilot, you know, that's not something that would ever really penetrate in our normal working life, is it? You know, you and I would typically follow the same path with different clients, and it is really, there's lots and lots of sexy roles out there than in financial services. So you know, but it gives us that opportunity to go and talk to these people, and then you never know who they know. I'm a big believer, you know, your network is one of the most important things, you know, and making sure that you nurture that and you encourage collaboration across your network, you know, so they're not competitors. Okay, that, you know, if I ever go out onto the marketplace cold, you've always got to know who's doing what, you know, just who's on the market at the same time, that type of stuff. And I go out quite regularly cold just to see what the market's doing, just to see whether the same process will work, you know, 6 months down the line, that type of thing. But yeah, it's always better just to open up your phone or your little black book and go, actually, who do I know that can either help so and so, or has done this before, can give me a bit of insight. It just makes things easy, and it gives you that time back then to be able to do the mentoring, doesn't it? Because it's not hard work what you do in your sort of day job. It's not hard work. You can find time to fit other stuff in. So just thinking ahead, okay, you said you didn't want to do a consultancy, okay, and I get that. I'm in the same space, to be honest with you. There's absolutely no way I want to go out and sort of compete with the big guys, and I actually quite like the niches that I've managed to carve out for myself. What about things like for you, sort of non-execs, you know, that type of thing, where you can go and add value to individual businesses, maybe, you know, the smaller kind of businesses that you're used to working with. Would that be something that you would consider going forward?
No, I mean, I go to board meetings now, and you know, talk to quite a lot of non-execs. I don't know if there's a bit of that imposter syndrome in there with me. I don't know whether I'm senior enough. I mean, I definitely have an opinion on lots of things, and definitely, you know, I do come up with ideas. My husband says my most annoying trait is you give me a problem and I give you 10 solutions. Failure is not which is true to a certain extent, but I have learned over the last sort of few years that actually there's a really important point of knowing when to stop, when failure is okay. I listen to a lot of podcasts by Elizabeth Day called How to Fail by Elizabeth Day, and she interviews 3 people and asks them what are their 3 biggest failures and what have they learned from it. And it's like, it's quite emotional. Some's really sad, some's really happy, but the bottom line is very few of those people would not choose not to go through that again because of what they've learned out the back of it. And so you learn stuff all the time. So I think, you know, I've had a lot of experience in 25 years of, you know, managing lots of different types of projects. My husband is like a property developer, so he has a lot of buy-to-let properties, so you know, that's been interesting as well. So we get exposure to a lot of different areas, and particularly with my mentoring as well. So yeah, it's something I don't know if I'd go down there. I'd love to give my time. I'm not sure anybody would want it, to be honest. I follow a few people that I went to school with. I went to school with a lady called Sam White, and she's really successful. She's a real entrepreneur, and I listen to a lot of her podcasts, and yeah, I don't know. I find it interesting. I don't know whether I'd go down that route, Karen. But
maybe not yet, but maybe when the kids are a bit older, off in university, something when, you know, you think, well, actually, and it's not so much NEDs to maybe SMEs and that kind of business, but a lot of charities need that kind of rounded business support. That's what I'm finding at the moment. You know, they just don't know where to go. They've suffered an awful lot over the past 12 months as well. You know, revenue is down for them, you know, they don't really know. And if they've got a high street presence, they don't really know what to do. It's not where they can pivot into digital very easily, you know, the way we've seen some of our clients do. So something to think about for the future anyway, you know, if you don't want to do the consultancy piece, and maybe that will change as well, you never know. So I am conscious of your time, and thank you so much for spending the time with me on this, but what would you, looking ahead, if you could go back 10 years, what's the advice that you would give your previous self? We've talked about, you know, learning to fail gracefully potentially and learning from it and moving on. But what can other contractors learn from you? What are the lessons over the past 10 years, say 20 years, that you've learned that will allow other contractors to have a successful contracting business?
So I think one of the really important things is effective communication. So get in with those clients, build those relationships. You know, I think my dad always used to give me the advice, you never mix business with pleasure. That is totally wrong. Mm-hmm. I make friends with my clients, and that's probably why they keep coming back again and again saying, have you got time to pick this up? Have you got time to pick that up? So I think network's really important. I think online presence is really important. So, you know, think about what you post, you know. I've got a lot of friends that are entrepreneurs that get negative posts on their posts on, you know, social media.
Yeah.
Think about how does that make you look externally? Because when I recruit, the first thing I do is look at people's online presence and go, I don't like them comments. He's not working.
Yeah.
Which may or may not be right, but you know, that's an easy way to, you know, differentiate. So I think try and give back. You know, you don't give to receive. But, you know, people see that and they like that. And, you know, I've been helping a few people this week, and, you know, it feels good. It's great for your motivation every day. If you've had a really tough day at work and then you've helped someone find a new role, life doesn't get any better than that. So I think, and the other thing is sponsorship. So I had a guy when I was in my early 20s, I was quite confident, and I was confident talking to anyone at any level, and I think that comes with experience, but I always really had it from being quite young. And he saw some potential in me, and I applied for this role that I wasn't qualified for. They said I needed a degree, and I certainly didn't have the experience. But I did this presentation. It was all about business continuity, and he had little bombs for me, bullet points and stuff. And he thought, you know what, she's made loads of effort. I'll give her a chance. I'll give her the job. So he gave me a job that I wasn't qualified for. He gave me day release and paid for my degree. I mean, Kevin, he was called. Everybody should have a Kevin. And then the best thing he did was he had a load of work to do, and he did all the rubbish stuff and let me have all the fun stuff. So I put the first teleworkers with BT. It was a joint venture. People working from home on headsets, answering breakdown calls in Europe. I did that. I did some really fun stuff. And you know, that set me up for life. When I look back on my career now, what was it that gave me that step up? It was him. He paid for my degree, and he gave me day release, and he gave me a real management role. And then I just kept stepping up from that level. If he hadn't have done that, I'd probably still be in the call centre now. So sponsorship goes both ways. So you see potential in someone, and that hunger and that desire, you know, help them as much as you can, because it doesn't cost you anything. And vice versa, you know, ask for help, you know, and acknowledge it and thrive off it, you know, because
are you seeing that the average age people are entering the contracting market is stable, up or down? Because when we both seem to have a very similar story to tell about when we were in our 20s. Someone took a punt on me as well, and it was I should never have got the job, but at 21 I did, and it was like, oh my god, I've just been handed this, now I've got to do something with it. So a sense of personal pride, but also responsibility to really make the most of it. Maybe I'm not seeing that with the community that I'm working with at the moment. You know, when you get to sort of 45, 50, 55, and potentially you've given 20 odd years to an organization, they're coming out a bit bruised. And I'm not, you know, I think it's right that they need that kind of sponsorship again at that stage in their life. You know, lots of people give it to the 20-something year olds, but potentially we also need to consider there's a different path for some of these people. You know, they don't need to just migrate from doing what they did in a permanent job into what they did there's always something unique about people. You just got to dig and find it, haven't you? And I love that aspect of it. When I talk to people, I get something sparks one thing that they could say, and I go, oh my God, you'll be perfect, because I've just heard this from a client. And they would not, that's not me. I've not got the experience. And they're even more nervous than their 20-year-old self. That's what I'm noticing.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people that I mentor are in that age bracket, and they've got what they've generally done is, a lot of them are men and they've thrown themselves into the career, but they've not maintained the network. They've just got on with a job, and then they get made redundant, and they don't really have a place at home because the wife's been doing everything, looking after the kids, and it'll make you laugh, but I do the CV with them, and then I say, right, you're at home full time now. Find out where the mop is and the Hoover, and ask. You don't wait for your wife to say, would you run around with the Hoover?
Yeah.
You know, the world's changed, mate. You need to get the Hoover out.
Yeah.
Because you've build. A lot of them don't really have marriages because you've just been away all the time, and so I think definitely that mentoring and support at all levels. And like, I think we're not great at 360-degree feedback, both giving and receiving. That's a massive gap as you get older. You know.
And that's an interesting point. Yeah.
I have a lot of clients that say, oh, thanks, it's really nice when you say thank you. But when you're working, and it's quite rare in big financial services organizations, that isn't always, given on a regular basis. But some of the clients that I'm working with at the moment, they say thank you. Oh, Tash, you're doing a great job. Thanks very much. That's really good.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel good.
It does. And some of the contractors don't get that because they're seen as like guns for hire, or they're seen as, well, you're not really part of it, and we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be going, to team events and team building and stuff like that. It's really not IR35 friendly. And but how do you generate that kind of engagement in your own business when you're a one-man band? It's difficult. You've got to make more of an effort. You've got to get out there. And I think that social side of it, when people leave a role after 20 odd years and they're on the market and they're too young to just go and play golf for the rest of their but they don't want to work 5 days a week and commute and do the Alan Partridge things that you talked about earlier on. They want to find that happy medium. So they can help, and do the hoovering on a Friday. I think it's difficult for them to find that space, find that niche. I think a bit of sponsorship and that saying thank you when they've done a really great job is something that everybody needs, not just contractors or permanents, not just the young or the old. It's just, I was brought up with, good manners cost nothing. And I think it comes right back down to, it's just the right thing to do, isn't it? Yeah, and
I think if you were a client and you were a recruit, you wanted some interim resource to come in and do something, you want someone who's going to be really nice to your staff. They're going to be polite, they're smiling, they're positive. Yeah. You're selling a service and you're delivering a job, but it's more than that. You're not part of that team, but you can add real value just by being polite and being nice and doing your bit. I work on a project and there'll be someone junior on it, and they'll send me something and I'll have a load of typos in Excel and a lack of full stops, and I'll send them a note and say, this is really good, but just for future feedback, the spell check button.
My pet hate is spreadsheets that you just can't go and print straight away.
You have to have that.
That's from my days as an accountant, when I literally, you couldn't do an awful lot online, then you had to print it, and you just realize it came out in like half a ream of paper because nobody had set the print parameters. So that stuck with me. That's one of my, anybody watching this, that's one of my real pain points if it doesn't print easily. Okay, so what's the future for you then? Looking ahead, you've got how many clients at the moment? 3 or 4 on the go, and
I'm absolutely loving it. I don't really see a need to change. I'll probably, fingers crossed, I've got about 10 years left. So the plan is carry on working for the next 10 years. I'd love to go to a 4-day week. So that's something I want to try and achieve in the next few years. And just do a bit more of my mentoring, actually. I'd like to do a bit more of that. I'd like to start, I have been doing a bit of like business advice. So the guy with the wills, and I'm working with a lawn company at the moment who do scarifying and aerating and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to help them grow their business. So stuff like that, it's interesting. I want to meet more people. I want to help.
Excellent. Well, I'm moving more into marketing. That's always been a passion of mine. So potentially we can hook up in the future and maybe talk about how we can work together outside of the contracting arena. You never know.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, listen, thank you so much for your time. It's been great talking to you as usual. Next time I'm up in the Northwest, I might stop by and we can grab a coffee somewhere. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Karen. All right.
Thanks a lot. Bye, Tash. Bye. Tash. Bye. Tash. Bye.